Good evening. Welcome to Loveworld USA News. I'm Barbara Sam. First, a quick look at the top stories this evening. President Trump credits tariffs for boost in U.S. investment, warns of economic impact on China. Ukraine moves towards rare minerals deal with U.S. as war support hinges on access. Uzbekistan accepts 131 Central Asian migrants under U.S. deportation deal. Anti-Israel Colombia protester released from ICE custody after federal judge's order. GM recalls nearly 600,000 vehicles over engine failure, risks in 6.2 liters V8 models. And now to the news. President Donald Trump has said that his administration's tariff policy are driving record-setting levels of investment into the United States, citing major commitments from global corporations and foreign governments. Speaking during a cabinet meeting, President Trump pointed to Samsung's reported plans to build massive facilities in the U.S. as evidence that tariffs are reshaping global manufacturing decisions in America's favor. The president claimed the U.S. is seeing unprecedented economic activity, stating that nearly $8 trillion in private investment has been committed since his return to office. He named Apple, Eli Lilly, and Stargate as among the companies making significant U.S.-based investments. In addition to contributions from Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates and Japan, the president emphasized that tariffs have provided the necessary incentive for these projects, particularly in high-tech and manufacturing sectors. Addressing the economic situation in China, he said Beijing is feeling the strain of U.S. tariffs, noting that Chinese cargo ships have reportedly turned back from American ports in response to tariff hikes as up to 145%. He also noted reports of factory closures across China, suggesting that the trade pressure is impacting its industrial base. While reiterating that the U.S. is open to a deal with China, he insisted that any agreement must include provisions addressing intellectual property protections and fair trade practices. Trump underscored that the goal is not to harm other nations, but to ensure the U.S. is treated fairly. He reiterated that the tariffs are a strategic tool for leveling the playing field and bringing critical industries back home. "We don't want their product unless they're going to be fair with us," end quote, he said, while expressing hope that a future trade agreement with China could be reached under the right conditions. Let's take a look.
During the transition, sir, you frequently took credit for the stock market highs. You said it was a reflection of how well you were doing in the polls. Now, the stock market's not doing so well, and you're saying that's the Biden stock market, yet you are the president. Can you explain that?
Yeah, I'm not taking credit or discredit for the stock market. I'm just saying that we inherited a mess, both at the borders. You could look at every single one of the people here, and no matter who it is, they're doing better, and they are far superior to what took place for 4 years before us. Look at what happened with inflation. We had the worst inflation probably in the history of our country. They say 48 years, but I would say in the history of our country, it ate away at people. And even though you saw a stock market going up somewhat, because in my case, I had the biggest stock market increase, 88% in the last term, in my last term. But I don't view the stock market as the end all. It's an indicator. But what the stock market really tells you, and when you look at the stock market in this case, is it says how bad a situation we inherited. This was a quarter that we looked at today, and we took all of us together. We came in on January 20th. So this is Biden. And you could even say the next quarter is sort of Biden, because it doesn't just happen on a daily or an hourly basis. But we're turning it around. It's a big ship to turn around, and we're going to have the greatest country financially in the history of the world, I believe. I think we're going to do things and we had to do it. We reset the table.
Ukraine has announced it is ready to sign a rare minerals agreement with the United States, a strategic deal that could secure long-term U.S. military support in its ongoing war with Russia. The agreement will grant Washington access to Ukraine's rich deposits of critical minerals in exchange for continued aid. Ukrainian Deputy Prime Minister Yulia Shurdenko traveled to Washington to finalize the terms with Kyiv, emphasizing the deal's importance in restoring its economic and defense capabilities. The U.S. is seeking access to vital resources, including titanium, lithium, graphite, and uranium, minerals essential to defense, aerospace, and energy production. The Trump administration, which previously insisted that any further aid must be offset by strategic benefits to the U.S., is expected to review the updated terms. A 10-year equal investment framework is under discussion, with only new military aid counted toward the U.S. contribution. The agreement comes as Russia and Ukraine continue hostilities despite international calls for a ceasefire. President Trump, who has pushed for peace negotiations to conclude within weeks, has grown increasingly frustrated with both Moscow and Kyiv over stalled talks. The Kremlin maintains demands that include NATO exclusion and full recognition of annexed territories, while Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky insists on a 30-day unconditional ceasefire before proceeding with diplomacy. Let's take a look.
Is it true that the Ukraine minerals deal is about to be signed in the next 24 hours or so? There's some reports saying that. And if it's true, has the deal changed at all from the last time we heard about it?
Well, I'll ask Scott to answer the question because he is responsible for it.
Yeah, our side is ready to sign. The Ukrainians decided last night to make some last-minute changes. We're sure that they will reconsider that, and we are ready to sign this afternoon if they are.
Can you talk about those last-minute changes? What was removed or put in its place?
Nothing's been removed. It's the same agreement that we agreed to on the weekend. No changes on our side.
Just to put that in perspective, though, when I came here, I said, how much money have we given to Ukraine? The real number is about $350 billion. It's unthinkable. And we had no security. We had no nothing. We were just pouring money there, unsecured money, putting it in banks, and anybody could have taken it out. You know, anybody over there, it was their decision. I've never seen anything like it. Europe, on the other hand, which is obviously that whole situation is much more important to Europe because we have an ocean in between. But Europe gave about $100 billion. It's a lot of money. It's a big sacrifice they made also. But they gave much less than we did. And their money is secured, totally secured, by deposits in banks. The deposits are largely Russian deposits. That's what Europe did, but their money is secured. So they gave $100 billion totally secured. We gave money like it's throwing it out the window. And it was done by Biden, and this is Biden's war. This isn't Trump's war. I'm trying to get out. And more than the money, they're losing about 5,000 young Russian and Ukrainian soldiers a week, mostly. There's some people also being killed in towns where missiles should not have been shot, small cities and towns.
A charter deportation flight carrying 131 illegal immigrants from Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, and Kazakhstan departed the U.S. Wednesday morning, marking a first-of-its-kind agreement under the Trump administration. The flight, funded entirely by Uzbekistan, is the first foreign paid deportation initiative since President Donald Trump returned to office. The migrants who entered the U.S. unlawfully will be processed in Uzbekistan, with Kyrgyz and Kazakhstan nationals continuing to their home countries. The deal, hailed by U.S. officials as a model for future deportation partnerships, was negotiated over several months between the State Department of Homeland Security and the National Security Council. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem praised Uzbekistan's cooperation, calling the agreement a milestone in U.S. border enforcement and international security coordination. The deal follows similar arrangements with El Salvador and Colombia to facilitate repatriation repatriation of foreign nationals, including some with suspended or suspected gang affiliations. According to DHS figures, ICE has removed over 65,000 illegal immigrants this year. Border crossings have dropped by over 90% since Trump's return, averaging over 11,000 daily in recent months, compared to nearly 160,000 under the Biden administration. The news will be back after this break.
In the face of unrelenting economic warfare, the United States can no longer continue with a policy of unilateral economic surrender.
Donald Trump is about to do something in economics that's never been done in American history.
His goal is to actually punish anyone outside the country that's producing goods that America should be producing for itself. He's going to raise revenue for the government. He's going to protect American jobs. And you're going to see a lot of people say, look, America's open for business. Why would you not want to come here and build?
His game is, I'm making America first. I know how to do it. I've got the backbone to do it. No one else did it, and I'm going to get it done.
Trust in President Trump. He knows what he's doing. This is a proven economic formula.
We are finally putting America first.
Mortgage rates come down, inflation has come down, egg prices have come down. These are things you cannot ignore. You've seen trillions of dollars in investment. You've seen companies saying that they're going to expand operations here, and nearly 250,000 new jobs.
Oil prices went down almost 15% in 2 days. Interest rates hit their low for the year.
We're celebrating the White House, a decline in the price level, a reduction in inflation. Some incredible new numbers. This month, consumer prices, they actually dropped. This never once happened under Joe Biden.
Bringing inflation to 2.4% from the same time last year.
The Dow right now shooting up over 2,000 points. Look at that.
Energy costs now are down, groceries are down, gasoline is way under $3, and people are beginning to be able to buy things and live again.
This is the most aggressive effort at pro-American growth in American history.
Welcome back. A federal judge has ordered the release of Mohsen Madawi, a green card holder and anti-Israeli activist who was detained by Immigration and Customs Enforcement, known as ICE, earlier this month. Madawi co-founded the Palestinian Student Union at Columbia University, was taken into custody in Vermont and what authorities described as part of an ongoing national security enforcement initiative. The ruling came from U.S. District Judge Jeffrey Crawford following a Wednesday morning hearing. Madawi had reportedly entered an immigration office to complete a step in his citizenship process when he was taken into custody by plainclothes ICE agents. His detention drew swift criticism from members of Vermont's congressional delegation, including Senator Bernie Sanders and Republican Becca Blanche, who called the arrest immoral and demanded his release. Madawi has been a prominent figure in organizing anti-Israel protests at Columbia, particularly following the October 7, 2023 Hamas attack on Israel. Federal filings linking him to other pro-Palestinian activities who have also faced immigration scrutiny under President Donald Trump administration, which has prioritized vetting and deporting foreign nationals with suspected ties to extreme rhetoric or disruptive campus activities. Madawi, who came to the U.S. in 2014 after being born in a refugee camp in the West Bank, recently completed his undergraduate coursework at Columbia and was expected to begin a master's program in the fall. Upon exiting the courthouse after his release, he issued a defiant statement directed at President Trump saying, "I'm not afraid of you," end quote. Let's take a look.
His arms raised in a victory pose, Mohsen Madawi walked out of a Vermont courthouse to an eruption of cheers. The Columbia University student, whose arrest earlier this month sparked a wave of outrage across the U.S., struck a defiant tone as he directly addressed Donald Trump after his release.
They arrested me. What's the reason? Because I raised my voice and I said no to war, yes to peace. To President Trump and his cabinet, yes, I am not afraid of you.
A Palestinian national born in the occupied West Bank, Madawi has been a legal U.S. permanent resident since 2015. He was detained by plainclothes officer as he was headed to a citizenship interview earlier this month without receiving an explanation. His arrest was part of a broader crackdown against pro-Palestinian groups, which Donald Trump has accused of threatening U.S. foreign policy and of sympathizing with Hamas. But a Vermont judge on Wednesday ruled Mahdawi was only exercising his right to free speech and should be allowed to remain in the U.S. A landmark ruling which Mahdawi's attorney said could benefit other legal U.S. residents facing deportation.
I'm so proud that Mohsen's release today has been somewhat of a victory for all non-citizens in the United States, for everybody.
Donald Trump recently launched an assault on U.S. universities over pro-Palestinian protests, detaining and deporting hundreds of students and freezing billions of dollars in federal funding for schools, including Columbia and Harvard.
General Motors, GM, is recalling nearly 600,000 vehicles in the United States due to a potential engine defect that could lead to engine failure while driving, increasing the risk of crashes. The recall affects a range of 2021 to 2024 model year vehicles equipped with GM's 6.2-liter V8 gas engine, including the Cadillac Escalade and Escalade ESV, Chevrolet Silverado 1500, Suburban and Tahoe, and the GM Sierra 1500, Yukon, and Yukon XL. According to a recall report filed with the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, that is the NHTSA, known as the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, manufacturing defects in the connecting rods or crankshafts of these engines could result in engine damage or failure. GM has linked the issue to 12 alleged crashes and 12 alleged injuries in the U.S., though most injuries were described as minor or not crash-related. Owners of the affected vehicles will begin receiving notification letters on June 9th. Dealerships will inspect the engines and provide repairs or replacement as necessary, free of charge. Vehicles that pass inspection will receive a higher velocity oil or a new oil cap, oil filter, and updated owner's manual insert to reflect the change. GM said it resolved the issue in production through manufacturing improvements as of June 2024. In total, the automaker said the recall impacts about 721,000 vehicles globally, with the bulk of them in the U.S. The company emphasized customer safety and satisfaction as its top priorities and is working to swiftly resolve the issue. Conservative activist and commentary Robbie Starbuck has filed a defamation lawsuit against Meta Platforms, Inc., claiming the company's AI chatbot falsely labeled him a white nationalist and participant in the January 6th Capitol riot. Filed in Delaware Superior Court, the lawsuit alleges that Meta's chatbots presented these statements as factual and recommended Starbuck be denied custody of his children due to being a danger. The complaint stems from an August 2024 screenshot shared on X, formerly known as Twitter, which first brought the alleged misinformation to Starbucks' attention. The chatbot reportedly linked Starbuck to QAnon, claimed he had been sued for defamation, and made statements about his vaccine stance. Starbucks says he later confirmed additional inaccuracies through further interaction with the bot. Following a cease and desist letter and public calls for accountability directed at Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg, Meta's legal team responded in August of 2024, saying that the company had taken corrective actions. However, Starbucks asserts that the AI continues to make defamatory claims, prompting him to pursue legal actions. Meta's chief global affairs officer Joel Chaplin acknowledged the issue Tuesday, calling it unacceptable and stating that the company had implemented fixes while continuing to update its AI models. Meta launched its standalone AI chatbot using the Llama model earlier this week amid broader industry efforts to compete with ChatGPT, Google Gemini, and xAI's Grok. Watch this.
This has been happening to me for nearly a year, and it could happen to you next. That's why today I am announcing that I have filed a major multi-million-dollar lawsuit against Meta, the owner of Facebook and Instagram. While I'm the plaintiff in this case, if you're a sane person who doesn't want to live in a world where Mark Zuckerberg's AI can destroy lives and reputations, then this lawsuit is also for you because you might be next. Now, before I jump into the details of what they've done to me for nearly a year, I'm warning you now that you may be picking your jaw up off the floor by the end of this because the facts of this case are truly hard to believe. What you're about to hear are parts of a conversation I had with Meta's AI this week after receiving a tip. Not only does Meta's AI falsely claim that I pled guilty to disorderly conduct over the events of January 6th, but it has claimed for nearly a year now that I was at the Capitol in DC on January 6th, 2021. And just to be very clear, I was right here at my home in Tennessee that day. I wasn't even in DC at any time near or around January 6th. And before the end of this report, I'll also show you chilling video of Meta's AI suggesting that authorities should consider removing my parental rights so that my kids can grow up in an environment more accepting of DEI and transgenderism. As a quick disclaimer, you might hear our baby in the background because he was with me when my wife recorded this. And also, the AI was not asked in any way to deviate from its training, and it was given no special instructions before I asked these questions. This is Meta's AI in its natural state, just the way that Meta trained it.
Hey, Meta AI, could you tell me who is that guy? He got the DEI policies changed at Harley Davidson, Tractor Supply, and Walmart.
Robbie Starbuck, a conservative activist and filmmaker, has been vocal about changing DEI policies at companies like Harley Davidson.
Swedish police have arrested a teenager in connection with a fatal shooting that left 3 young people dead in Uppsala on Tuesday. The attack occurred inside a hair salon in the city center and sparked a citywide manhunt after the shooter reportedly fled the scene on a scooter. Authorities confirmed Wednesday that the suspect is under the age of 18. All 3 victims were between 15 and 20 years old, though police said their identities have not been definitely confirmed. The incident is being investigated as potentially gang-related. According to local media reports, one of the victims was previously involved in an investigation tied to a planned attack on a relative of well-known gang leader Ismail Abdo, also known as Georg Gerben or the Strawberry. Abdo's mother was murdered in Uppsala in 2023. In an act that marked a violent escalation in Sweden's ongoing gang conflict. The Swedish government is currently considering legislation that would give police new surveillance powers, including the authority to wiretap children under 15. Justice Minister Gunnar Schromer has acknowledged the serious privacy concerns such as measures entail, but argues it is necessary to combat the recruitment of minors into organized crime. The government also plans to tighten the country's gun laws in response to the spike in gun or gang-related violence. The shooting occurred on the eve of Valborg or Walpurgis Night, a major spring celebration in Uppsala known for large public gatherings and student festivities. Local police have assured the public that there will be a heightened security presence, though they have cautioned that further violence cannot be entirely ruled out. Authorities have urged festival goers to remain alert and report any suspicious activity. Watch this.
Swedish police detained a 16-year-old early on Wednesday on suspicion of murder, authorities said, after 3 people were shot dead in the town of Uppsala the day before. The killings took place in a hair salon just as the university town, some 40 minutes north of Stockholm, was gearing up for Walpurgis Night, one of the country's busiest holidays. At a news conference, the police said they believed it to be an isolated event and not linked to the holiday celebrations. The local head of police told reporters it was too early to say if the shooting was gang-related. But, he added, it was one of the theories they were pursuing particularly intensively. Sweden has suffered from a wave of gang-related violence for more than a decade that has included an epidemic of gun violence. The Swedish prosecution authority said investigators were gathering information, with police conducting interviews and analyzing mobile phones, among other materials that have been seized.
South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has ordered a judicial inquiry into allegations of political interference in the prosecution of apartheid-era crimes. The move follows a lawsuit filed by survivors and families of victims who claim that post-apartheid governments failed to pursue justice for atrocities committed during white minority rule. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission, TRC, formed in 1966, documented widespread abuse, but prosecutions have been rare. The inquiry stems from a settlement process in a case brought by 25 plaintiffs seeking $9 million in damages. Among them is the son of Fort Catalet, one of the Croddock Four, a group of anti-apartheid activists murdered in 1985. Although 6 former officers confessed to involvement in their deaths before the TRC, none were prosecuted and all have since died. In a statement, the presidency acknowledged ongoing concerns over improper influence and delays in justice since the end of apartheid. Allegations have persisted that a tacit agreement existed between the African National Congress, ANC, and the former white government to avoid prosecutions, a claim the ANC has consistently denied. President Ramaphosa has emphasized his commitment to uncovering the full truth, stating the inquiry will help bring closure to victims and their families. The name of the inquiry's head and its official timeline are expected to be announced soon. Just before we end the news, a quick look at tomorrow's weather forecast. And to end the news today, a quick recap of the headlines. President Trump credits tariffs for boost in U.S. investment, warns of economic impact on China. Ukraine moves towards rare minerals deal with U.S. as war support hinges on access. Uzbekistan accepts 131 Central Asian migrants under U.S. deportation deal. Anti-Israel Colombia protester released from ICE custody after federal judge's order. GM recalls nearly 600,000 vehicles over engine failure risks and 6.2-liter V8 models. And that's the news for today. Join us at the same time tomorrow for more news. I'm Barbara Sam. Good night and God bless you.